Victoria pressed her ear against the heavy wooden door of her boss's office. The voices inside were getting louder, and she could hear the worry in Michael's tone. She had been working as his secretary for 3 years, and she had never heard him sound so scared. "The doctors say I have maybe 6 months," Michael was saying to someone on the phone. "My kidneys are failing fast. Without a transplant, I'm going to die." Victoria's heart skipped a beat. She stepped back from the door, her hand covering her mouth. Michael was only 45 years old. He had built his construction company from nothing and was one of the most successful businessmen in Lagos. How could someone so strong and powerful be dying? She quickly walked back to her desk, pretending to type on her computer. When Michael's office door opened, she looked up with a bright smile. "Good morning, Mr. Michael. How are you feeling today?" Michael's face was pale and his eyes looked tired. "I'm fine, Victoria, just fine." But his voice told a different story. For the next few days, Victoria watched her boss closely. She noticed how he walked more slowly to his car. She saw him taking pills when he thought no one was looking. She heard him cancel important meetings because he was too tired. Victoria had always been the kind of person who helped others. When she was 12, she gave her lunch money to a homeless man every day for a month. When her neighbor's house burned down, Victoria organized the whole street to collect clothes and food for the family. Her mother always said, "Victoria, your heart is too big for your own good." Now, seeing Michael suffer, Victoria felt that familiar pull in her chest. She had to do something. That weekend, Victoria took a bus to Lagos University Teaching Hospital. She had been thinking about Michael's problem for days. She knew about kidney transplants from a TV show she watched with her mother. People could live with just one kidney, and they could donate the other one to someone who needed it. "I want to get tested to see if I can donate a kidney," she told the nurse at the front desk. The nurse looked surprised. "Are you donating to a family member?" "No, to my boss. He's dying." The nurse explained the process. Victoria would need blood tests, medical exams, and meetings with doctors. It would take weeks to know if she was a good match. "Are you sure about this? Kidney donation is a serious surgery. There are risks." Victoria nodded. "I'm sure." The tests began the next week. Victoria told her family she was getting a regular health checkup. She didn't want them to worry. Her mother, Grace, was already stressed about money. Her father had died 5 years ago, and Victoria was the only one working. She sent most of her salary home to support her mother and her 2 younger brothers who were still in school. 3 weeks later, Victoria got the call. She was a perfect match. "This is amazing," the doctor said. "Your kidney could save your boss's life." Victoria felt a warm feeling spread through her chest. She could actually help Michael. She could save him. But first, she had to tell him. The next morning, Victoria knocked on Michael's office door. He looked even sicker than before. His skin had a yellow color, and he was breathing heavily. "Michael, I need to talk to you about something important." He looked up from his papers. "What is it, Victoria?" "I know about your kidneys. I heard you on the phone." She took a deep breath. "I got tested at the hospital. I'm a perfect match. I can give you one of my kidneys." He stared at her for a long moment. His eyes filled with tears. "Victoria, I can't ask you to do that. It's too dangerous. You have a family to think about." "You're not asking me," Victoria said firmly. "I'm offering. You've been good to me, Michael. You gave me this job when I needed it most. You've helped me support my family. Now I want to help you." Michael stood up slowly and walked around his desk. He took Victoria's hands in his. "Are you absolutely certain? This is a huge sacrifice." Victoria smiled. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." As Michael hugged her, Victoria felt proud of her decision. She was going to save a life. She was going to be a hero. 6 months had passed since the surgery. Victoria sat in the small waiting room of Dr. Adebayo's clinic,
watching the ceiling fan spin slowly above her head. Her left side still ached sometimes, especially when it rained. The doctor had said this was normal, but Victoria worried about it anyway. "Victoria Johnson?" the nurse called out. Victoria stood it carefully and walked into the doctor's office. Dr. Adebayo was a kind woman who had performed the kidney transplant. She always smiled when she saw Victoria, but today her face looked serious. "How are you feeling, Victoria?" Dr. Adebayo asked, looking at her chart. "I'm okay, doctor, just tired most days, and my side hurts when I lift heavy things." The doctor nodded. "That's expected. Your body is still healing. But I'm concerned about something else." She paused. "Your blood tests show you're anemic. Your iron levels are very low." Victoria felt confused. "What does that mean?" "It means you need to rest more and eat better food. Red meat, vegetables, fruits. Your body needs to build back its strength." Dr. Adebayo looked worried. "Are you eating well at home?" Victoria looked down at her hands. The truth was, she wasn't eating well. The medical bills from the surgery had used up all her savings. She had to borrow money from her uncle to pay for the follow-up visits. Most days she ate only rice and a small piece of fish. She sent most of her salary home to her mother, just like before. "I'm eating okay," Victoria lied. "Victoria, I need you to be honest with me. If you don't take care of yourself, you could get very sick. You only have one kidney now. You must be more careful." After leaving the clinic, Victoria took a bus back to the office. She was supposed to be on light duty, but there was so much work to do. Michael had been traveling a lot since the surgery, meeting with new clients and expanding the business. He looked healthy and strong again, like a completely different person. When Victoria got to the office, she found Michael waiting for her at her desk. He was wearing a new suit and looked better than she had seen him in years. "Victoria, how did your appointment go?" "Fine, Mr. Michael. Everything is fine." Michael studied her face carefully. "You look tired. Are you really okay?" Victoria forced a smile. "I'm just a little tired. Nothing serious." "That's not acceptable," Michael said firmly. "You saved my life. The least I can do is make sure you're taken care of." He walked toward his office and motioned for her to follow. "I have something to discuss with you." Inside his office, Michael sat behind his big desk and pulled out an official-looking paper. "Victoria, I'm promoting you to office manager. Your salary will double starting next month." Victoria's eyes went wide. "Mr. Michael, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Michael laughed. "You deserve this. You've been running this place while I was sick anyway. Now it's official."
Victoria felt tears of joy fill her eyes. Double salary meant she could pay her medical bills and still send money home to her family. Her brothers could stay in school. Her mother could buy the medicine she needed for her high blood pressure. "Thank you, Mr. Michael. Thank you so much." "There's more," Michael said. "I want you to start coming with me to business meetings. You know this company better than anyone. I trust your judgment." Over the next few weeks, Victoria's life changed completely. She moved to a bigger office with a window that looked out over Lagos. She bought new clothes for the business meetings. She even hired a girl to help with the filing and phone calls. Michael began taking her to expensive restaurants to meet with clients. He would ask her opinion about contracts and business deals. Victoria felt important and valued in a way she had never experienced before. "You have a good mind for business," Michael told her one evening as they sat in his car after a successful meeting. "I should have promoted you years ago." Victoria smiled. "I'm just trying to help the company grow." "You're doing more than that," Michael said, his voice getting softer. "You're helping me become a better man." Something in his tone made Victoria feel warm inside. She had always respected Michael as her boss, but now she was starting to see him differently. He wasn't just her employer anymore. He was becoming something more. But late at night, when Victoria was alone in her small apartment, she sometimes felt a strange uneasiness. Michael was being very kind to her, maybe too kind. She wondered if he was just being grateful or if there was something else. Her mother had visited the previous weekend and noticed the change in Victoria's lifestyle. "Be careful, my daughter," her mother had warned. "When a man gives you too much too quickly, he usually wants something in return." Victoria had laughed off her mother's concerns. "Mama, you worry too much. Michael is just being grateful. I saved his life, remember? But as Victoria fell asleep that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was moving in a direction she didn't fully understand. She had wanted to help Michael, and she had succeeded. But now she was beginning to wonder, what did Michael really want from her? 3 months later, Victoria was working late in her office when Michael knocked on her door. It was past 8 o'clock, and most of the other workers had gone home. The building was quiet except for the sound of the security guard's radio downstairs. "Victoria, do you have a minute?" Michael asked, stepping into her office. She looked up from the contract she was reviewing. "Of course, Mr. Michael. What do you need?" "I need to talk to you about something important, but not here." He seemed nervous, which was unusual for him. "Can you come to my house for dinner tomorrow? I want to discuss your future with the company." Victoria felt excited. Maybe he was going to give her another promotion or a bonus. "Yes, sir. What time should I come?" 7 o'clock. "And Victoria," he paused at her door, "wear something nice." The next evening, Victoria took a taxi to Michael's house in Victoria Island. She had only been there once before for a company Christmas party. The house was huge, with high walls and beautiful gardens. A security guard led her through the gate. Michael answered the door himself, wearing casual clothes instead of his usual business suit. He looked younger and more relaxed. "Victoria, you look beautiful," he said as he led her into the living room. Victoria had borrowed a dress from her friend and spent her lunch money on getting her hair done. She felt nervous but excited.
The dining room table was set with candles and flowers. A cook had prepared jollof rice, grilled fish, and plantain. It was the best meal Victoria had eaten in months. "This is wonderful, Mr. Michael," she said. "Thank you for inviting me." "Please, call me Michael. We're not in the office now." During dinner, Michael talked about his childhood and his dreams for the company. He asked Victoria about her family and her hopes for the future. Victoria found herself relaxing and enjoying the conversation. After dinner, they sat on the balcony overlooking the garden. The night air was cool, and Victoria could hear the sound of waves from the nearby beach. "Victoria," Michael said quietly, "I need to tell you something. These past few months, getting to know you better, I've realized something important." Victoria's heart started beating faster. "What is it?" "When you gave me your kidney, you didn't just save my life. You showed me what real love looks like." He turned to face her. "I've been alone for so long since my wife died. I forgot what it felt like to care about someone else." Victoria felt confused. "Michael, I don't understand what you're saying." "I'm saying that I love you, Victoria. I want you to be my wife." Victoria's mouth fell open. She stared at him, unable to speak. Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a diamond ring that sparkled in the candlelight. "Will you marry me?" Victoria's mind was spinning. She had never thought about Michael in a romantic way. He was her boss, and he was 15 years older than her, but he was also kind, successful, and handsome, and he loved her. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," Michael said, taking her hand. "I know this is sudden, but I've never been more sure of anything. You're the woman I want to spend my life with." Victoria thought about her life. She was 28 years old and had never been married. She worked hard but still struggled with money. Her mother was getting older and needed more help. If she married Michael, all of those problems would disappear. "Yes," she said finally. "Yes, I'll marry you." Michael slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her. Victoria felt like she was in a dream. But the dream began to turn into a nightmare the very next week. Victoria was at her desk, admiring her ring and planning to call her mother with the good news, when the elevator opened and 2 people stepped out. They were both tall and well-dressed, and Victoria could see immediately that they were Michael's children. She had seen pictures of David and Grace on Michael's desk, but she had never met them.
They had been studying in London for the past 5 years. "You must be Victoria," the young woman said coldly. "I'm Grace, and this is my brother David." "Nice to meet you," Victoria said, standing up. "Your father will be so happy to see you." David looked at her with unfriendly eyes. "We heard about your engagement. Congratulations." Something in his tone made Victoria feel uncomfortable. "Thank you. I'm very happy." "I'm sure you are. It must be exciting to go from secretary to future millionaire's wife." Victoria's face got hot. "It's not like that. I love your father." "Of course you do," David said with a fake smile. "And I'm sure the money has nothing to do with it?" Before Victoria could respond, Michael's office door opened. "David! Grace! When did you get back?" "This morning," Grace said, hugging her father. "We need to talk to you, privately." Michael looked at Victoria, then back at his children. "Of course. Victoria, can you hold my calls?"
As the office door closed, Victoria could hear raised voices inside. She couldn't make out the words, but she could tell that David and Grace were angry. An hour later, the door opened and the two young people walked out. They both looked at Victoria with cold expressions. "This isn't over," Grace said quietly as she passed Victoria's desk. When Victoria went into Michael's office, she found him sitting with his head in his hands. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting in the chair across from his desk. Michael looked up. His face was tired and stressed. "My children don't approve of our engagement. They think you're marrying me for my money." Victoria felt hurt and angry. "Do you think that's true?" "No," Michael said quickly. "Of course not. But they're threatening to fight me if I change my will to include you. They say they'll take me to court." "Maybe we should wait," Victoria said. "Give them time to get to know me." "No," Michael said firmly. "I won't let them control my life. We're getting married next month, as planned." But as Victoria left the office that day, she felt a heavy weight in her chest. She had thought that marrying Michael would solve all her problems. Instead, it seemed like it was creating new ones. The wedding was beautiful. Victoria wore a white dress that cost more than she used to make in 3 months. The ceremony was held at the Intercontinental Hotel in Victoria Island with over 200 guests. Michael had spared no expense. But as Victoria walked down the aisle, she noticed that David and Grace sat in the front row with cold faces. They had not spoken to her since that day in the office, and they barely smiled during the ceremony. Victoria's family was amazed by everything. Her mother cried with joy, and her brothers couldn't stop staring at the fancy decorations. Victoria felt proud that she could finally give her family a day like this. "You look like a princess," her mother whispered, as they took pictures after the ceremony. But Victoria's happiness was about to be shattered. During the reception, Victoria excused herself to use the bathroom. As she walked down the hallway, she heard familiar voices coming from a small room nearby. The door was slightly open, and she could see Michael talking to his business partner, James. "Congratulations, Michael. That was a brilliant strategy. Thank you. It took some planning, but it worked perfectly." Victoria stopped walking. Something about their tone made her curious. Marrying your secretary to keep her quiet about the contracts. Now she can never testify against you, even if she wanted to. Victoria's heart stopped beating. She pressed herself against the wall, listening carefully. "It was the only way," Michael said. "Victoria knows too much about our business. She's seen all the documents, heard all the phone calls. If she ever decided to talk to the authorities, we'd both go to prison. But what if she finds out the truth about the fake contracts? What if she discovers we've been stealing money from the government projects?" Michael laughed coldly. "She won't find out. And even if she does, she's my wife now. She can't testify against her husband in court. It's the law." Victoria felt sick. Her legs became weak, and she had to hold on to the wall to keep from falling. Plus, she's so grateful for the kidney surgery and the promotion. She thinks I'm her hero. She'll never suspect that I've been using her this whole time. "What about the love story?" James asked. "All that talk about her saving her life and showing you what real love means."
"Complete nonsense," Michael said. "I needed to make sure she felt emotionally connected to me. Women are easy to manipulate if you know which buttons to push." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She put her hand over her mouth to keep from crying out loud.
The kidney donation was just a lucky coincidence, Michael went on. When she offered to give me her kidney, I realized she was the perfect person to manipulate. Someone so selfless and trusting would never suspect what I was really doing. And if she ever becomes a problem? James asked. She won't, Michael said confidently. I have her exactly where I want her. She's dependent on me financially, legally tied to me through marriage, and she still thinks I'm the good guy who fell in love with her kindness. Victoria backed away from the door, her whole body shaking. She ran to the bathroom and locked the door behind her. She stared at herself in the mirror, still wearing her wedding dress, and felt like she was looking at a stranger. Everything made sense now. The promotion, the expensive dinners, the sudden marriage proposal, none of it was real. Michael had been playing a game with her life, and she had been too blind to see it. She thought about all the documents she had filed as office manager. She remembered the strange phone calls Michael made when he thought she wasn't listening. She recalled the meetings with government officials where large amounts of money were discussed. Victoria realized that Michael's construction company had been stealing money from public projects. They were supposed to build schools and hospitals, but they were using cheap materials and keeping the extra money for themselves. Poor people were suffering because of Michael's greed. And she had helped him by managing his files and scheduling his meetings. Without knowing it, she had been part of his crimes. Victoria splashed cold water on her face and tried to think clearly. She had to do something, but what? She was married to Michael now. She lived in his house. Her family was dependent on his money. And she was carrying his child. Victoria had discovered she was pregnant just 2 weeks ago. She had been planning to tell Michael tonight, after the wedding. She had thought he would be happy about having a baby with her. Now she realized that a baby would make her even more trapped. There was a knock on the bathroom door. "Victoria, are you okay?" It was her mother's voice. "I'm fine, Mama," Victoria called out, trying to sound normal. "I'll be out in a minute." But Victoria was not fine. She was married to a man who had used her kindness to protect himself from going to jail. She was carrying the child of a man who saw her as nothing more than a useful tool. As she walked back to the wedding reception, Victoria smiled and thanked the guests for coming. She danced with Michael and cut the wedding cake. She played the part of a happy bride. But inside, she was planning her escape. She didn't know it yet, but Michael was much more dangerous than she realized, and her attempt to fight back would cost her everything she had left to lose. 2 months after the wedding, Victoria sat in her new bedroom, staring at the small recording device in her hand. She had been secretly gathering evidence against Michael for weeks. Every conversation, every phone call, every document she could find, she was building a case that would expose his crimes. Her pregnancy was starting to show, and Michael had been acting more controlling than ever. He didn't want her to work late anymore, and he had hired a driver to take her everywhere. He said it was because he cared about the baby, but Victoria knew better. He was watching her. "Victoria, where are you?" Michael's voice called from downstairs. She quickly hid the recording device under her pillow and went to find him. He was in his study, looking at papers on his desk. "Yes, Michael?" "I need you to go through these contracts tomorrow and organize them by date. Some government inspectors are coming next week, and I want everything to look perfect." Victoria nodded, but inside she was excited. More evidence for her collection. The next morning, while Michael was at a meeting, Victoria went through every file in his office. She found contracts that showed how much money the government had paid for school construction projects. Then she found the real receipts that showed how much money Michael had actually spent on cheap materials. The difference was millions of naira. Victoria also found bank statements showing large deposits into Michael's personal account. Money that was supposed to buy computers for schools and medicine for hospitals had been stolen. She copied everything onto a flash drive and hid it in her purse. That afternoon, Victoria met with her friend Sarah, who worked as a reporter for a Lagos newspaper. They met at a small restaurant far from Michael's office. "Victoria, you look worried," Sarah said. "What's wrong?" Victoria pulled out the flash drive and placed it on the table. "I need your help. My husband is stealing money from the government, and I have proof." Sarah's eyes went wide. "Are you sure about this? This is serious." "I'm sure. He's been using money meant for schools and hospitals. Children are suffering because of what he's doing. But Victoria, he's your husband. If you expose him, you'll lose everything. Victoria touched her growing belly. I know, but I can't let him keep hurting people. I have a baby coming. I want my child to grow up in a world where people do the right thing. Sarah took the flash drive. I'll need time to verify all this information. Can you give me 2 weeks? Yes, but be careful. Michael is dangerous when he's cornered. Victoria had no idea how dangerous. That evening, Victoria was in the bedroom when she heard Michael's voice in the hallway. He was talking to someone on the phone, and he sounded angry. What do you mean someone has been asking questions about our contracts? Who? Find out who it is and stop them. Victoria's heart started beating fast. Had someone discovered her investigation? I don't care what you have to do. If this information gets out, we're all going to prison. Handle it. Victoria quietly opened the bedroom door and peeked out. Michael was standing at the top of the stairs, still talking on the phone. And keep watching my wife, he said. I don't trust her lately. She's been acting strange. Victoria quickly closed the door and sat on the bed. Michael suspected something. She had to be more careful. But it was too late for caution. The next morning, Victoria woke up to find Michael standing by the window, holding her hidden recording device. Looking for this? He asked, his voice cold and threatening. Victoria's blood turned to ice. Michael, I can explain. Explain what? He shouted. Explain how you've been spying on me? Explain how you've been recording my private conversations? I know about the stolen money, Victoria said, standing up. I know about the fake contracts. You've been stealing from schools and hospitals. Michael's face turned red with anger. You don't know anything, and you're going to keep your mouth shut about what you think you know. No, Victoria said firmly. I won't let you keep hurting people. I'm going to expose you. Michael grabbed her arm roughly. You're not going anywhere. You're my wife, and you'll do what I tell you to do. Let go of me, Victoria said, trying to pull away. You stupid girl, Michael hissed. Did you really think I married you for love? You were just a useful tool, someone to keep my secrets and make me look good. I know, Victoria said. I heard you talking to James at our wedding. I know you never loved me. Michael's grip tightened. Then you know how foolish it would be to cross me. I have power in this city. I have connections. I can destroy you and your family. You can't scare me anymore, Victoria said. I've already given the evidence to someone. Even if you stop me, the truth will come out. Michael's eyes filled with rage. What evidence? Who did you give it to? It doesn't matter, Victoria said. It's too late to stop it now. Michael pushed her hard against the wall. Tell me who has the evidence. Victoria tried to run toward the door, but Michael grabbed her again. They struggled, and Victoria lost her balance. She fell backward toward the stairs. Michael, help me, she screamed as she tumbled down the steps. But Michael just stood at the top of the stairs, watching her fall. Victoria hit the bottom with a terrible sound. Pain shot through her body, and she felt something warm and wet spreading beneath her. She knew immediately that she was losing the baby. Help, she whispered, but her voice was too weak. Michael slowly walked down the stairs. When he reached her, he knelt down and checked her pulse. I'm sorry it had to end this way, he said quietly, but you brought this on yourself. Victoria tried to speak, but no words came out. She could feel her life slipping away. With her last bit of strength, she thought about her mother, her brothers, and all the children who would suffer because of Michael's greed. She had tried to do the right thing, but it had cost her everything. 3 days later, the newspaper published Sarah's story about the stolen government money. Michael was arrested at his office, and the police found millions of naira in his personal bank accounts. Victoria's funeral was small and quiet. Her mother cried over the coffin, holding the evidence that Victoria had died trying to protect. She was always too good for this world, her mother whispered. Her heart was too big. But Victoria's sacrifice was not in vain. The government investigation led to new laws protecting whistleblowers. A fund was created to help the families of people who died fighting corruption. Victoria's family received money from this fund, and her brothers were able to finish their education. Michael was sentenced to 20 years in prison. In his cell, he sometimes thought about Victoria and the kidney that she had given him. He was alive because of her generosity, but he had repaid her kindness with betrayal and violence. The kidney that Victoria had donated to save his life continued to beat inside his chest, a constant reminder of the good woman he had destroyed. Sometimes, the greatest acts of love come with the highest price. Victoria had learned this lesson too late, but her story would inspire others to keep fighting for what was right, no matter the cost.